from Molly Ploufkins on X, executed by the US government. Now then, I know this channel tries to be quite light, it's more of a comedy channel than a serious news channel. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be a little bit serious for a moment, because this hot take is all over social media at the moment. The amount of people who've even tagged me in messages and said, executed. One of the particularly brain-dead ones showed a picture of 4B2 being executed by, can't say the N-word, outside of those camps that they built. I think it might have been the big one in Poland. On his knees, getting shot in the back of the head before he drops into a ditch. And they were saying, look, it's exactly the same, by freezing the picture just before the shot went off. It's genuinely brain dead. And it's willfully ignorant. You don't have to be a combat veteran who's actually been in a gunfight before. I was fortunate enough to have been in about 100 because I did advanced contact patrols in Helmand province. And I say fortunate because the American A-10s turned up on about a dozen of them and promptly scattered the enemy across the battlefield in an immensely gratifying display of good old American engineering over Bronze Age barbarism. So that was fun. One thing I wasn't, though, when an Afghan was emptying an AK-47 in my general direction, was very, very calm and relaxed. Yeah, it frays your nerves a little bit when a bloke's trying to fill you full of holes. So I'm going to play your BBC Verifies attempt at mitigating the situation and then tell you exactly what happened and explain exactly why it definitely wasn't an execution. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. This is off BBC Verify, unpicking the second Minneapolis shooting frame by frame. I'll play you it. I will obviously provide more sensible and reasonable commentary than they do at select parts.
The first video we have of Alex Pretti, he's in the road, holding a phone and talking with a federal agent. The officer pushes him, and he steps backwards. Kristi Noem is US Homeland Security Secretary. This is her account of why Alex Pretti died.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently.
But in this video, as in others, Alex Pretti had nothing in one hand, a phone in the other. We see two people interacting with an agent. We then see an agent push one of those people, then push the second person. Alex Pretti steps between them and the agent and is pepper sprayed. He's wrestled to the ground by a number of agents. He's on his knees, bent over. His hands are on the floor, and he's struggling against being held down. One agent repeatedly strikes in the direction of his head. And take note of this agent. He has nothing in his right hand, reaches down, and removes what appears to be a gun from Alex Pretti's waistband. Then he steps back, holding the pistol, which appears to match this image shared by the authorities. Carrying this type of gun is legal in Minnesota with a valid...
Yeah, it's legal, but if you've got two brain cells to rub together, you don't take it to a protest. You do that if you're trying to give it Billy Big Licks to your mates in the pub beforehand and go, look what I've got. I'm taking a shooter to the protest. I've actually had people send me messages saying, so you're against the Second Amendment then? No, if you turn up at a protest where they're actually getting violent, increasingly so, and you turn up with a 9mm, you are mental. You've obviously been brainwashed, pathologized by the political machinations of the governor of the state it's in. And you actually were thick enough to think it was a good idea to go armed to a protest. You need a firearm to protect yourself. For example, I've got one next to my bed, so if a couple of thieving little scroats burgle my house in the middle of the night, I can give them the good news, preferably without having to get out of bed. That's what they're for. If you turn up at a protest after what's gone on the last few weeks with a 9mm, you are brain dead. You are definitely brain dead.
Permit. The police say they believe Alex Pretti had one.
Believe he had one. The police say they believe he had one. No, he definitely had one, because we've all watched the footage. Yeah, so he did have one.
In a second after the gun is removed, an agent fires the first shot.
A second after the gun is removed, an agent fires the first shot. So the BBC are lying by omission, missing out the important details. Painfully obvious.
As Alex Pretti lies motionless, further shots are fired while agents are standing clear of his body. In total, 10 shots were fired in 5 seconds. In all of these videos, we don't see Alex Pretti holding a gun. But once more, we have...
Right, so they lied by omission, blatantly, obviously. You've all seen what actually happened. So, the short version is, this bit here, they explained it terribly. This bit here was when he started arguing and jostling with the agents. And he is being aggressive with them. They pull him to the floor, and straight away they see the firearm in his waistband. So if you're a copper, or if I was in Afghanistan and we were getting jostled by an aggressive Taliban fella, and as soon as he goes to ground with a few of the lads wrestling with him, we see he's got a firearm, the SOP is to get the firearm away from him as quickly as possible, as this fella does, and he shouts, gun, gun, gun. Secondly, it doesn't need explaining by anyone with a room temperature IQ or above. All those agents surrounding him, there's about 10 of them. They're not watching a slow motion camera after the fact. They just know that the aggressive bloke who they're all wrestling with has been pulled to the floor, and then they've heard gun, 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 gun. And then this is what happened which caused the shooting. As the agent takes the firearm off him, there's a negligent discharge, and to add a little bit more interest to the story, the firearm is a SIG. And only a couple of weeks earlier, I seen this on Reddit, there's been a lot of discussion about the SIG Sauer pistols apparently firing without a proper trigger pull. Some claim the P320's been discharged when they dropped it, which generally doesn't happen. Certainly doesn't happen with a Glock. However, ultimately, it's by the by. You've all seen the video in full about 10 times, I'm sure. I don't need to explain it too slowly for you. I'll just give you the bullet points. It wasn't an execution. The guy shouldn't have been shot, but everyone knows you're rolling the dice. The coppers aren't as well trained as like elite special forces teams. Everybody knows that. Any sensible person knows that you put your hands on the dashboard and you do exactly what you're told when you're dealing with coppers. Even me, a law-abiding civilian, if I get pulled over just randomly on a traffic stop, I do exactly what I'm told. I'm very slow and deliberate in my motions because I know that some coppers are a little bit badly trained and they might accidentally shoot me if given half the chance. So no one's saying that the bloke should have got shot in the head, but there are about 5 things here that explain how it could have happened, and it's not even that weird, really. I mean, I'll just reel them off. Loads of aggression towards law enforcement, turned up with a firearm, aggressive and jostling with law enforcement, followed by disarming and the federal agent shouting, gun, gun, gun. And then, what really caused it, the negligent discharge, or however it fired. Maybe it wasn't an ND, maybe it was one of those rare manufacturing issues. But whatever happened, the bloke turned up, got aggressive, he brought the pistol, he was disarmed, and then the pistol was discharged. And because you can't see every set of fingers when there's 8 blokes wrestling with an armed assailant, if you hear gun, 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 and then you hear a gunshot, it is understandable why all those guys would suddenly pull away from him and everyone would just empty the magazines in his general direction. That's about the size of it. The idea that it was an execution is definitely 100% ludicrous. And if I was in that situation, probably would have shot him as well. Probably. I wouldn't have seen everything. It's not happening in slow motion. I'd have just probably, if I was one of them ones packed around him, I'd have just heard gun, 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 gun. And then 2 seconds later heard a gunshot and instantly went, better shoot the guy who isn't on my team then. That's a normal human response. I think any one of us could have made the same mistake, and it's a regrettable accident. The idea that it's an execution is preposterous. And the final point I'll make, probably the most important point, is succinctly summed up by Officer Lou there, who said, Alex Pretti got shot by feds after bringing a gun to a protest, resisting federal agents, and there was a gunshot. Unarmed Ashley Babbitt, a woman, an unarmed female, who was more than 10 feet away from the coppers, got shot in the head. That is 10 times more of an execution than the kinetic, confusing suspect with a gun and there's a discharge series of events that I've just explained to you. Isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, again, any impartial observer, if you're just watching completely dispassionately from South Korea, you would assume that that shooting was far more hard to explain than the ICE agents giving the baldy communist the third eye. So, I mean, what do you think? You You think execution? Do you think if you were there and you heard gun, 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 you might maybe have squeezed the trigger at the aggressive suspect on the floor? Because I know I would have done. And the final point I'll make is directed at this sack of rats. Governor Tim Waltz. Waltz, I don't care. First of all, look at that picture. Apparently, if an illegal immigrant was brought in by the parents and is a kid and they have a nice cute bunny hat on, therefore the law doesn't count anymore. It says that on the books, doesn't it? It says coming into America illegally with no form of documentation or prior permission or visa is illegal and you're not allowed to do it unless you're wearing a cute little woolly hat and then you're allowed to do whatever you want. That's not the law, is it? Waltz is a self-serving shitbag politician who's been encouraging pathologized protesters who, it's not even their fault, is it? The baldy bloke who's just got the good news there, and that brain-dead boss-eyed bird from last week. It's not really their fault. Ever since Trump came down the escalators, the mainstream media and all these lefty politicians have literally spent 10 years properly brainwashing people. Like, they genuinely believe that the federal agents, they're just civil servants. Most of the people at ICE have probably been there for more than a couple of years. They precede Trump being in the White House. They were probably there when Biden was running the agency. They're just civil servants doing the job. But this lot have been convinced, because of shitbags like Waltz, that they're like the Gestapo. And if you genuinely did believe with every fibre of your being, because you watch too much TV, that they are the Gestapo, well, you can't blame them for being angry, can you? You can't blame them for being violent and aggressive towards them. But that's what they're doing. They're being violent and aggressive towards them. So the agents are going to do what agents have been trained to do, which is neutralise the threat. And occasionally people are going to get slotted. Another good point, at least 50 people got killed during deportations when Obama was the president, but you didn't hear anything about that. Looks like we're only at like 2 under Trump. So, I mean, he's got rookie numbers. He needs to add another 53, doesn't he, if he wants to match Obama's record on people getting slotted during deportation proceedings. This is the key point. If you're thinking of going to a protest against these people who are simply enforcing the law, don't do it. Don't do it. You might end up getting filled full of holes. You'll have a very bad day. Write an angry letter. Send me some nasty tweets. But don't turn up to an ICE operation with a firearm and pleading with you not to do it. Because you might be a lefty arsehole, but that doesn't mean I want to see you pissing blood all over the streets in the United States of America. All right? If only because, someone's got to clean it up. That's my tax dollars. I don't want to have to pay someone to go and mop claret off the streets just because you're a f***ing idiot. All right? Let me know what you think. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you think it's an please explain to me what you would have done in that situation. Why seeing arms and legs flying everywhere and then hearing a gunshot wouldn't make you slightly panic in that situation. Because I'm not seeing that. I don't think it's that unfair. And I don't think I'd even fire the copper who slotted him. But that's just my opinion. You are free to disagree, as always. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.